You know those two guys from work who won't shut up about football, but are pretty damn entertaining? Well, they decided to buy a couple microphones. And with that, we welcome you to the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast, where Justin Adams and Martin Cheney wrangle over everything college football and NFL. Bold predictions, hot takes, and live game reactions. This is Cheesy Corn Sports. And now, here's your hosts, Justin and Martin.
Just in the nick of time. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year from us here at Cheesy Corn Sports. I hope everyone had a wonderful and safe New Year's Eve. If you went to parties, if you just, kind of hung out at home, whatever the case may be, I'm glad you all are here. I'm glad we're all ringing in the new year together. And even more so, I'm glad for those that are in the fantasy championships this week, duking it out with their league opponent for that coveted fantasy football championship. And we are now joined by, of course, my weekly co-host, Justin Adams. Justin, how are you doing this morning? I believe your audio is off. I don't know if your mic is... All right, while we wait for that to kick off, a little bit what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be we're more than likely going to be talking a little bit about the college football games that happened kicked off yesterday. I know Justin has some pretty strong feelings regarding those games. But then, of course, we're going to get into our normal thing. We're going to go over the. There we go. I'm hearing some audio. How you doing, Justin?
Oh, I'm doing well. Glad everybody survived. Hope your dogs survived the night. Mine barely did, according to them. They were to come back to Vietnam.
They started to get some flashbacks going for sure over here. So, but yeah. So it's New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And
won some championships.
Yeah, let's get to some championships, huh?
Yeah.
We're gonna do our normal thing today. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, in my opinion.
Yup.
We're gonna go over each of the matchups. We're gonna talk about who we like, who we don't like. We'll of course be answering any comments, any questions and comments that fall into the comment section. So if you're in here early, go ahead and drop a like, drop a comment, say what's up, ask away, and we will get to your question as soon as we see it, if not a little bit afterwards.
Yes, sir.
All right, Justin, take us through the realm of the college football semifinals yesterday.
God, don't even get me started. All right. So first game, Michigan TCU.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot of Michigan not being able to get out of their own way in the first half. Really bad call that fully changed the momentum. You had a from JJ McCarthy. The receiver catches it at the goal line, about a half yard short of the goal line. Doesn't have control of the ball. It bobbles up, but the ball never hits the ground. After he's past the plane, he gets control, maintains control, and for some reason, the call on the field was a touchdown, and they overturned that on the field. Next play, Michigan fumbles into the end zone. TCU recovers, and that is a touchback. And then they went down and scored and made it, I think, at that point, a 2 or 3 score game. Michigan got down 19. It was they had the ball, goal to go twice in their first 3 drives. The first one, they went for it, turnover on downs. The third one was that blown call there. And then from Michigan kind of started to really take over with their offense, their passing game, believe it or not. And but the problem was every time they'd go down and get 2 scores, they let TCU come back and get 1 score. And it's hard to come down from 19 with that. And it was just a matter of they shot themselves in the foot too much too soon, and they weren't able to. They didn't have enough time to come back. They had a chance there at the end to win the game on that final drive. It was just too little, too late. They got down by a little bit too much. They came out just, I don't know. It was just as a whole, not only the call, but it was a lot of just mistakes, simple mistakes that doesn't make and hasn't made all season, and they made them yesterday. But shout out to TCU and Duggan for winning. At the end of the day, I'm happy with TCU being in there because first off, I hate Michigan. And I don't know, it's just nice to have a little change of pace in there. But
yeah,
I that Michigan Ohio State championship because that would have been a whole lot of fun.
It would have. I agree. I absolutely despise Michigan.
Yeah.
I just so plus, I mean, you and I we've been chanting Max Duggan for ever since the conception of the show, really. First it was kind of an ironic, like, oh, they're having a great season, I'm happy for them kind of thing. And now here they are in the freaking national championship, man.
Yeah.
Max Duggan, I think he had 4 total touchdowns yesterday, 2 on the ground, 2 through the air. Yeah, man.
Kid's solid. Yeah. He's going to be coming out in the draft this year, but he's probably not going to be. He's going to be somewhere between rounds 4 and 6, most likely. Just doesn't really have the prospect profile of the other guys.
Right.
He's slight, like he's 6'2", a little over 200, but he's very slight for a dual threat guy. Like Bryce Young isn't a dual threat guy, believe it or not. He doesn't run the ball.
Right.
He had he had under 200 yards rushing, less than 4 yards a carry. So, but he also doesn't have a good read of defenses pre-snap. He's not good at picking up blitzes pre-snap, so his pre-snaps reads aren't good. But he's a very good college quarterback. It's just there's a lot of things that really aren't going to serve him well in the NFL. And so he's probably going to go day 3 in the draft, but
sure.
He's been hell of a fun QB to watch in college, that's for sure.
That's good. All right. So, I know you don't want to talk about this, but we'd be doing our fans a disservice. Talk to us about the old Georgia Bulldogs and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
This game ruined my New Year's. Because for as much as I hate Michigan, I hate Georgia that much more.
Yeah.
Had money on a couple avenues on Ohio State and was pending a big payout. More than my hatred for Georgia. That just compounded the matter. But I had some money set up to win. I bet on Ohio State at the beginning of the year, and I bet them as soon as they made the top 4. I doubled down on it. And Ohio State got screwed out of that game yesterday. Michigan didn't get screwed out of their game. They had one call not go their way, and then they fumbled. To me, that's their fault.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you still got the ball at the 1-inch line. Put the ball in.
Sure.
Ohio State, on the other hand, there was first off, they're coming out in the game. They're missing Jackson Smith and Jigba, who, yes, I know Marvin Harrison Jr. right now is their best receiver, but Jackson Smith and Jigba would have been their best receiver this year. And him with Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba had 1,600 yards as a sophomore last year. Jackson Smith and Jigba plus Marvin Harrison Jr. would have been deadly. Nobody would have been able to stop it. So you got them coming in. Then you have their tight end, Cade Stover. Cade Stover got hurt early on in the game. They're missing Travion Henderson, their starting running back. So they come out and they're starting to control the game. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. They're putting Georgia on their heels constantly. CJ Stroud's just dropping dimes in there, left and right, like just picking their defense apart. You got freaking I'm drawing a blank on his name because I hate him so much. The quarterback, Georgia.
Stetson Bennett.
Stetson Bennett, that loser. You got him. He's out there damn near 30 years old acting like he's hot shit because the rest of his team's really doing it for him. His first touchdown pass was like a screen to the left. The guy just took up the field. But so Ohio State's in control of that game. A little bit later in the game, Ohio State's up 2 scores, trying to make it 3 scores. Georgia's on the 15-20. They go for it on 4th down, and they roll. They give it to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers goes right side, goes out of bounds. They call him short of the 1st down marker. Turnover on downs, you would think. However, they overturn the call. Now, the problem I have with them overturning that call is there wasn't clear evidence that he wasn't out of bounds. So the way it works is it's not out of bounds when you step out of bounds. It's out of bounds when you cross into out of bounds, the out of bounds territory. Whether your foot comes down out of bounds, none of that. If you're crossing the out of bounds line, wherever the ball is, when you cross, when your body crosses out of bounds, wherever the ball is, that's where it should be spotted. Somehow that was short, and it was nothing that I saw that was overturned that could overturn that. They overturned it. So what does that do? That gives them the ball 1st and goal, right? So what does Ohio State do? They come out and they stop them. Georgia just loses yards, right? They had another 4 downs at it, couldn't get it, kick a field goal, okay? It's a big field goal now in the grand scheme of things. Ohio State had Marvin Harrison Jr. knocked down on the previous drive, so now they're down to their 3, 4, and 5 wide receivers. And they stall out the next drive. Georgia comes down, and well, actually, they didn't. This is where the one part that frustrated me was actually Ohio State came out and they got a 1st down, and then they pulled up a 4th and 1 on the next chain, or the next 1st and 10. Mm-hmm. They ended up coming out 4th and 1, and they do a fake punt, right? Ball snapped. Everybody's fucking running the play. Ball snapped. Ohio State gets the 1st down, right? No, they blow it dead after the play, and then they grant them a timeout that was called. If you look at it, the timeout wasn't granted until after the ball had snapped. So then Ohio State punts. Georgia comes down, quickly scores, takes the lead. Ohio State gets the ball back. Stroud marches them down the field, and they miss the 50-yard field goal to win the game. I don't know why Ryan Day at the very end of that game settled so easily and stopped being aggressive at a 50-yard field goal. Mm-hmm. Don't know why he was so conservative there at the end. You got to give your guy a little bit more leg, a little bit more room. That's a tough kick with that amount of pressure at 50 yards. And so it was to me, it was, dude, they did everything they could. The officiating did everything they could to give Georgia that game. And C.J. Stroud did everything he could. Down people. Like, everybody talks about C.J. Stroud's receivers, but damn, like, regardless of who was in there, he was still driving them. And credit to him for that. But yeah, that game was just taken from them, and I hate to see that because Georgia did not deserve to win that game. Kirby Smart, after the game, in his post game on the field interview, he said Ohio State deserved to win that game. Georgia's own coach said that. They were outplayed, they were outmatched, they were outgunned. And that's what I said all season. I said Ohio State's the best team in the country when fully healthy. That proved it right there. Georgia did not deserve to be in the championship. So go Horny Toads.
All right. Well, I know you wish nothing but the best for TCU. I wish nothing but the best for both teams there in the Natty. I hope we have a fantastic national championship. If these semifinal games were any indication of what's to come in the Natty, I think we're going to be well taken care of as far as what we should expect.
For sure.
For sure. I don't want to see a blowout from either side, really. To me,
No,
those
and
are
that's
the
what I'm
most,
afraid of.
yeah, those are the most boring national championships to me, or like championships in general. Like what was the Super Bowl where the Broncos got blown out? I think by the Seahawks, was it? I think
Um,
something like that. Um, all I remember is the snap went over Peyton Manning's head at the very beginning of the game, like on the first play.
oh, safety on the first play.
Yeah, that was the one, and the final score was like 40 something to like 8.
Yeah, somebody won like $1 billion
And
on that first play safety prop bet.
exactly. But yeah, I just don't want to see it a blowout. I want a tough competitive game. Honestly, when it comes to championship games where I don't have a horse in it, I could care less about all the technical ticky tacky stuff. I just want to see a good game. Honestly, throw all the defense out the window for me. I want to see a high scoring game, back and forth. I want to see a shootout. Because to me that makes for the best. That makes for the best type of championship. Those are the games that you talk about for years to come.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, I was going in on people last night. I was like, could y'all imagine if this was my team? Oh,
yeah,
I'd be flying out to people's houses.
Yeah, my absolute favorite thing to listen to you talk about is the SEC bias, but you come from it with a place of Big Ten bias, and it's really entertaining. Yeah, it's entertaining to say the least.
I have to, because like we're their biggest competition, and they talk down on us more than anybody.
It's true. It's true. Yesterday, you brought up the superiority complex of the SEC, and I definitely agree with you on that end. If you're Alabama, I understand it. If you're at the top of the SEC, I understand it.
It's top heavy. That's all we've been saying.
Yeah. But once you start getting the likes of Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and they're talking about how great the
A&M.
SEC is, it completely just dilutes the entire argument for me. I fucking hate it.
Yep.
I mean, every conference has its like bad teams, right? Like,
yep.
You got Vanderbilt and all them in the SEC, and then you got Rutgers in the Big Ten.
Yep.
But there's so many different angles that you can take to the argument. Of course, the SEC is always going to bring up the championships.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So
some guy was arguing with me the other day on about it, and he was like, yeah, well, Georgia's going to be in the national championship. This is like 3 days ago, and I was like, cool. Like, whether they are, whether they're not, like, if they are, that further proves my point. Like, you're proving my point, which is my point here isn't that Georgia sucks. It's not that Alabama's not good. It's that the SEC is top heavy, and it's not this gauntlet that everybody says it is from top to bottom, like to the point where you should get propped up because you have to go through an SEC schedule.
Yeah.
Because SEC automatically means good. That's not the case. They're just like every other conference where they have their good teams and they have their middling teams and they have their bad teams. Every conference has that. There isn't one single conference that doesn't have that, and there never will be. There's always going to be good teams, middle tier teams, bottom dwellers. As long as college football has been around, that's been the case. There's not enough room for everybody in the conference to be good. So
yeah. All right. Now that we got college out of the way, it's Sunday. It's New Year's Day. Let's get into what we came here to be for, and that's the National Football League. Kicking us off today is a snooze fest of a game. We have the Arizona Cardinals sitting at 4-11, going up against the 5-10 Atlanta Falcons. The old Sophie's Choice here. We got David Blau starting for the Arizona Cardinals up against
old Purdue QB.
Go ahead, give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I remember David Blau, clown.
Yeah.
D-Hop's not playing for the Cardinals.
Nope.
Not sure if there's anything indicating, because there was a little bit of a comment he made that kind of piqued everybody's interest there. I'm not sure if it's anything to do with that. It's listed as a knee injury, but he was ruled out a couple days ago, pretty quickly actually. He's not going to play. To me, if you're trying to, of course, decide between Dortch and Hollywood, out of those two, you have to go Hollywood.
Right.
He's going to be the main guy in that offense without D-Hop there. I keep knocking my desk. But you're firing up Connor. I think Atlanta wins this game. Should be no surprise there. I think actually Tyler Algier for Atlanta. I think Algier has a good game. Desmond Ridder, he targeted Drake London a pretty good bit. I liked Drake London's targets with Ridder under center. So I'm curious to see if they can expand upon that. I'm quite in a position, unless I'm in a deep league where I'm throwing Drake London in my starting lineup yet.
Yeah.
Especially for the championship week. But if you have to, I don't think he's a bad option. But yeah, I think this dynamic is an interesting one because you got the Cardinals who play at a really, really fast pace, and then you have the Falcons who like to slow the game down and just pound the football. And right now, of course, they're in a weird position too with running backs because you got Cordero Patterson. He's basically, is this the last year we see Cordero Patterson?
In terms of like on the field or in fantasy relevance?
Both. Relevance, yeah. Fantasy relevance
for sure.
Because I think this is the end of it because he's what, 30?
He is 32. 31.
31? Yeah, and he's kind of been phased out of the offense by Algier, who was a day 2 or 3. I don't know if he's 2 or 3. Day 2 or 3 draft pick. So yeah, that's interesting dynamic to see out there. But yeah, I like Algier. I like London. And then I like Hollywood in that order.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like any Atlanta Falcon in this game. You do make a good point with the target share of Drake London. Over the past 3 games for Drake London, he's had target counts of 12, 11, and 9, yielding in 6 catches, 7 catches, and 7 catches, 95 yards, 70 yards, and 96 yards, respectively. It's been fantastic on that end. He has fumbled the ball twice in the past 2 weeks. Actually, probably at really crucial moments. One of them was at New Orleans on that game-winning drive or potential game-winning drive. Caught the ball, made a guy miss, got whacked, and ball popped out. Something similar definitely happened against Baltimore. I think if you had to, I wouldn't feel bad about starting Drake London in a flex spot, just because we have now seen at least a couple weeks of Desmond Ridder getting his feet wet in the NFL. This Cardinals defense really isn't much to be afraid of, so I don't really see how Desmond Ridder won't be throwing the ball a good amount in this game. Looking to him and Algier are probably the only Falcons that I'm really even worth mentioning at this point. Yeah. Flipping over to the Arizona Cardinals side, right? We saw not Colt McCoy. Who was the quarterback last week? Trace McSorley for the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. And because Trace McSorley is not a great downfield passer, they got their slot guy involved. And earlier on in the season, that was supposed to be, what's his name? The short guy, not David Moore.
Oh, Rondale.
What's that?
Rondale Moore.
That's the one, Rondale Moore.
Purdue kid too.
Yep. And then we saw him get hurt. He's on IR. Insert Greg Dortch here. And from there, we have seen Greg Dortch have these weird games, right?
Yep.
Week 1, he had 9 targets. Week 3, he had 10 targets. Week 11, he had 10 targets. Week 16, he had 11 targets. The rest of his games combined, I am counting here, 7, 8, 9, 10. Outside of those one-off games, he has had 10 targets the rest of the year total. Interesting.
We have a question in the chat too after.
Okay, perfect. I would be happy to get to that here in just 1 second.
Yep.
The intrigue here with Dortch this week is, once again, you have David Blau, a guy who this will be his 6th career NFL start, doesn't really throw the ball down the field that much. Cliff Kingsbury, we have seen him time and time again just scheme the small passing game to the slot guy. That could be Greg Dortch this week. Hollywood Brown, it's risky. I think at this point you're just starting the name value, really. But I mean, he has one game since coming back from injury over 5 catches, and that was the first game back. He hasn't had more than 4 since. Yeah. So I think Greg Dortch is probably the receiver on Arizona that I would be more comfortable with starting. James Conner's probably the only one that I'm really gonna say yes, put him in your lineup. Just because James Conner has actually been relatively consistent since about week 10 on, where he has gone every single game since week 9 of 11 points or more. And some of those are with touchdowns. Some of them are not. He has been on a good touchdown run lately, and Atlanta's defense does give up a good amount of points to the running back position as well. I think you can definitely fire James Conner up and not feel bad about it. All right, let's go to the comments here. We have Kobe Bean. Happy New Year's, my man. Start 4. All right, it's a full PPR, 2 starting running backs, 2 flex spots. Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Algier, Cam Akers, Jerick McKinnon, Zay Jones, and Mike Evans. Damn. All right. So let's start with the running backs here. Probably rolling Saquon and Eckler, just because those are the studs here.
Is Kenneth Walker go today?
I believe so. Let me take a look.
I know he's questionable.
It says he is expected to play.
Okay.
Should have
same thing as last week.
Legs.
He went into last week with the with that same thing, and
yeah,
I was basically like, if he's in, start him.
Yeah.
And he got the volume last week. So just off the top of my head, looking at this, I like in his full PPR. Okay, so I like Saquon.
Yep.
I like Walker.
Yep.
For your starting 2 running backs, and then flex spots, I would say Evans.
Yep.
And McKinnon.
We're not starting Austin Eckler there?
I said Eckler, right?
You said Saquon.
Oh, no. So, okay. So, oh, shoot. I can't believe I missed that. I see Eckler now. I was looking at Akers. Okay. So, Saquon, Kenneth Walker, Eckler, Evans.
Yep. That is 100% exactly what I was gonna say.
Yep.
It's those 4, and then you got Ramondre, McKinnon, Algier,
Algier,
Akers, Well, probably Zay Jones, then Akers.
Yeah. The only thing that kills Algier is his receiving
Correct.
downside, if you will.
Correct. But as far as Saquon, Eckler, and Kenneth Walker goes, you can expect a large part in what they're going to be doing today, especially Eckler going up against the Rams, who have turned into the worst team against fantasy opponents in the entire league. So you can definitely expect Austin Eckler, whether it's on the ground or through the air, to go ahead and do his thing today.
Zay Jones might struggle too.
Who's that?
Zay Jones might struggle.
It's true. I think the I think the I don't even know the word, the prettiness, the newness, the shine, the new car smell surrounding Zay Jones has come to pass.
Yeah. And believe it or not, the Texans are actually the fourth stingiest team against fantasy wide receivers on the season.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
So
that's where we're coming from with that. Moving on here. All right. Let's move on to the Chicago Bears going in against the Detroit Lions. I can't believe I'm saying this. I need the Bears to beat the Lions. It's not.
I need the Bears to beat the Lions.
It's not a necessity, right?
It is for me.
But Green Bay will be in a good spot. But actually, honestly, it really doesn't matter, because if Green Bay wins here, or if the Bears beat, or the Lions beat the Bears and then lose to Green Bay, they're still out anyway. So, and if Green Bay wins today and beats the Lions, honestly, we'll get to the games later. But as far as fantasy goes here, I'll take the Chicago Bears side here just real quick, right? Because I know you like to talk about Amon-Ra. Justin Fields should be a solid option. I'm talking top 5 option this week. He wasn't listed on Chicago's final injury report. Apparently he's been playing through that left shoulder injury for a while. We saw last week what Justin Fields turns into when he doesn't run the ball effectively. He went from 70 plus rushing yards consistently all the way down to 7 carries for 11 yards. Now that is Buffalo's defense. That was also in the cold. You now have at Detroit inside. Detroit has become rather stingy against running backs, which gives me pause on David Montgomery. Detroit to start the year was the worst team against running backs defensively. And now they're among the top half of the league. They probably around week 7 or week 8, they took it all head on, and they just started bulldozing running backs left and right. Yep. Big name running backs too. So David Montgomery, if you have to flex him, because you don't have anyone better, that's perfectly fine. But if you have better options at running back this week than David Montgomery, I would fire him up. I don't really believe in any of the Bears receivers or tight ends or any of that stuff. So really it's really just going to be Justin Fields and David Montgomery with relevance for me. There might be a one-off receiver that catches a touchdown, but as far as I'm not even going to sit here and try to predict who that would be, because it's just a random fucking name every single week. Go ahead and take us through Detroit. And if you have anything else in Chicago.
Yeah, so the reason I also need Chicago to win is the Texans are in a weird predicament. Okay. Last week they won, which kind of screwed things up for us. As much as I enjoyed beating the Titans, because fuck the Titans. Now the Texans are in a potential position to lose the number 1 overall pick, because the Texans have the Jaguars, who was one of our 2 wins, albeit Jaguars are playing better now. But so are we. And then the Colts. So the issue I have right now is the Colts have no desire to win. They have no need to win. And Trevor Lawrence was questionable, but that's good. Had he not been playing, I would have been really worried that we win today. But if we win one of the two last games and Chicago loses both of their last two, they get the number one pick. Now, the problem with that is people will say, like, well, the Bears don't need a quarterback. Yeah, that's true, but other teams might be desperate for a quarterback. The Bears may not necessarily like anybody at one, and they may take a big haul of picks, if you will, to give up the number one pick for a team that may be desperate for a QB who wants to go up ahead of us and get their guy. Then we can't get our pick of the litter. After we've been the worst team all season, we have a potential that we could screw that up and end up number two. And
yeah,
that's not something I'm wanting to deal with. So I'd rather just have Chicago win a game. That'll spot us because, again, if we win one game and they lose both, and I think they play the Lions today, and I think they have the Chiefs last week. I can't remember. But there's a high likelihood we could come out and beat the Colts in week 18. So if they win this week, that kind of lets me feel a little bit better about it, seeing as if the Texans lose. So I am kind of needing I kind of need the Bears to win this one. Now, on the Detroit side of things, right now you're in a position where, of course, you're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, has been great all season. The dude is a top 5 fantasy wide receiver, in my opinion. Justin Fields, like you said, he very much needs to run the ball. And Detroit stepped it up as of lately defensively. We know they were really nothing much to write home about the beginning of the year. They were kind of laughable, like defensively. It was all offense, no defense. Now they did give up a pretty solid amount of points last week. Or was it last week? Yeah, last week. They gave up 37? Panthers?
Yeah.
Something like that. Let me see if I can find it here.
To Sam Darnold.
Yeah, 37-23. Albeit that was a lot of on the ground. And like you said, I don't necessarily know. I don't really necessarily trust the Bears run game too much outside of Justin Fields. David Montgomery is, he's a little too volatile for me to trust.
Right.
Even with that. So yeah, I'm definitely firing up. Of course, you're firing up Fields, but there's no Mooney there. Claypool's questionable. And then on the Lions side of things, you're starting Amon-Ra, and then after there it gets a little hairy at the receiver position because it's really been a dartboard throw at who's, because Jameson Williams has been open. He had that touchdown that they missed him for last week. So Jameson Williams has been open. So I do feel like there's a potential here pretty soon that Jameson Williams could have a big day. And Brew Crew, we'll get to your question in just 1 second, buddy. DJ Chark, I still don't know if I'm 100% comfortable firing up anybody outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, outside of a deep flex spot.
Yeah.
But if I did fire up anybody, it would probably be I like Jameson Williams this week. I don't know. I feel like one of these games, Jameson Williams is going to have a breakout game, but not Josh Reynolds.
No,
I don't like Josh Reynolds as much in this game. I like DJ Chark a little more,
When it comes to Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're watching. Those are the guys that you're watching Red Zone, and you'll see their names pop up because
Yep.
they get like one or two, like 15, 20-yard catches a game.
Yep.
And that's really the extent of what their day is. Josh Raymond started the year insanely hot, at least for his standards, through week 12 or week 2 through up to their bye week in week 6. I mean, he had multiple games with 8 or more targets, multiple touchdowns, 90 yards, 80 yards, 90 yards again. He was doing fantastic. But then he got hurt and it all went away. And then Khalif Raymond kind of stepped up, but then he kind of faded back into the wayside too. So to me, it's you're starting Amon-Ra, you're starting Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is a solid streaming option this week at quarterback. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift here?
Well, if you're starting one of the two running backs, it's DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much for question there. If it's coming to a running back, starts it, definitely DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, Jamal Williams hasn't gone for over 10 fantasy points since week 11 against the Giants when he had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. His trending hasn't been upwards lately.
Right. He's definitely a touchdown or bust for sure. Okay, let's get over to the questions here. Brew Crew, what's going on, man? Happy New Year. It says Tom Brady or Mike White starting in the PPR championship game. And these are the questions that we're here for. This right here to help you win your championships. We got Tom Brady going in against the Carolina Panthers, a team in which he struggled mightily in the first time up in week 7.
Yep.
And then we got Mike White, who's coming back from injury. They are playing the Seahawks, who have been pretty hit or miss when it comes to defense. They give up a good amount of yards. What are your thoughts?
I like Mike White.
Yeah.
I said last week for Tom Brady, one of these days, we keep saying this could be the week, this could be the week, this could be the week, but at what point do we have to really hang up that idea? And this is the last week of the fantasy season for most people. So,
very true.
Mike White, of course, in a shorter sample size, but he has more fantasy points per drop back, a deeper average depth of target. He's just been in the games he's played, he's been more efficient. And we saw the difference between him and Zach Wilson. And so if Mike White's in there, it's going to be a heavy dose of Mike White. And I'm not confident in Brady right now at all.
Yeah.
To the point where I'd rather have my fantasy championship in the hands of Mike. I'm out with it.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I'm probably also rolling Mike White. That offense just hums better through the air when Mike White is at quarterback. And when the Jets offense is performing, like when they're performing well at their ceiling, they look better than what that Tampa Bay offense looks like, just in general. All season long, we've talked about, Brady throws the ball more than any quarterback in the league, yada yada yada. He puts up the yards and all that stuff. Great, but he's QB 14 on the year. I mean, I don't know, man. He's got 7 interceptions over the last 4 weeks. That's absurd. He's got 2 interceptions apiece in his last 3 games, and that's including against the Arizona Cardinals.
Slightly in his defense, his offensive line is just a shell of itself.
Yeah, it's atrocious. So if the season were to end right now, right, you would be looking at Tom Brady's worst fantasy performance since 2016, back with the New England Patriots, where he finished as QB 18. And that's actually never mind. Sleeper only goes back to 2008. But yeah, it's it is what it is. I'm rolling Mike White. We'll get more in depth with the Jets when we get to their game. Speaking of which, we are about 50 minutes in, and we've only done 2 games so far. Let's start picking up the pace here. We do have a lot of games to get through, so let's. You know what? This is your forte here. Go ahead and bring us through Jacksonville and Houston.
All right. So Jacksonville, Houston, for what I said earlier, is a very interesting game. First off, as far as fantasy players go in this game, it's not really it's almost like the Houston defense has been playing well enough to where you're actually scared away from a lot of Jacksonville receivers. You're firing up Trevor Lawrence. I think you're probably starting Evan Ingram. You're starting Trevor Lawrence, but on the Texans side of the ball, Brandon Cooks is maybe a flex option. But that's about it. Texans absolutely cannot win this game. But they have to lose for my sanity. It's the Texans defense again has been, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people have been fading them all year, and rightfully so, especially against the run. But the defense has really stepped up in recent weeks. Took KC overtime to beat us, took Dallas to the very end to beat us. Then we upset Tennessee. But Tennessee's also not very good, but we're terrible. So, but fourth stingiest defense to fantasy tight ends. Jalen Petre's been playing out of his mind. Desmond King's been playing out of his mind. We're actually getting a pass rush going, which is surprising. And I mean, Davis Mills is spreading the ball around a little bit. You got a little bit of Amari Rodgers in there. You got a little bit of Chris Moore, a little bit of Brevin Jordan, even Jordan Akins. Like, they're all getting kind of spread the ball around. Cooks, of course, was huge last week in getting that game-sealing touchdown, or the game-winning touchdown. So Cooks is the guy, but Davis Mills is doing a good job of spreading the ball around. So, but there's that makes it to where there's really nobody that you can lock in on the Texans side of the ball that you're comfortable starting. He's not really keyed in on just Cooks. He's not really keyed in on just Amari Rodgers, just Chris Moore. So, and on the Jaguar side of the ball, maybe start Kirk, maybe Zay Jones. It's just depending on your league situation, but I would try to avoid starting them. I still feel like Lawrence is going to get his numbers, because he's gotten his numbers in a game where Kirk and Zay Jones didn't do jack diddly. So, but I do like Evan Ingram, because the Texans are one of the worst teams against fantasy tight ends. So if you do have Evan Ingram, fire his ass up. Texans got to lose this game. I don't know if they will, because it's hard to tell the players to go out there, hey, lose this game for us.
Right.
Typically doesn't go over well. So just hopefully they find it in their heart of hearts to just go back to the Texans of week 12-ish and just throw a dud out there. And Jaguars have incentive to win. They don't necessarily have to win this week. I know they have to beat the Titans, but here's to hoping that Evan Ingram goes off and Trevor Lawrence goes off, because I chose them. And Texans lose. We do have a question in the chat too, by the way.
Yes, sir. CD Smitty says, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, DJ Moore, or Jahan Dotson for a flex. You just got to start one.
It's between Sanders and DJ Moore for me.
I'm kind of drifting towards DJ Moore. Sanders plays a stingy New Orleans defense. Sanders has also been kind of in and out of the game scheme lately. I do kind of view him in that boomer bust range. He could absolutely go off. But I mean, he has a total of 6 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. So I'm probably rolling DJ Moore, who has a little bit more of a hot hand lately. Ever since Sam Darnold came back into the lineup, DJ Moore has finally started getting the targets and the production that we're used to seeing from him. He's gotten 18 and 20 fantasy points respectively over the last 2 weeks. You take his touchdowns out, and he's still putting up double-digit numbers in both of those games, just off the target or just off the receptions and yards alone. So for me, it's probably DJ Moore.
Yeah. This is really tough. So I think I'll go Sanders and then DJ Moore, Montgomery are kind of 1A, 1B. Slightly into DJ Moore and then Dotson. So, but I wouldn't fault you for starting DJ Moore because DJ Moore has been a focal piece of that offense.
Yep.
But Tampa's tough defensively.
Yep.
So I would say Sanders, DJ Moore, Montgomery as 2A, 2B, and then Dotson. So just because of the tougher matchup for DJ Moore. If DJ Moore was in a better matchup, I'd probably have him at the top. But the only risk you run with the Eagles right now is they have incentive to rest people. They only have to win one of these games. If they get up early, who's to say they're not then just rotating at running back? That's the one thing that scares me off of Miles Sanders right now, is say that they're not just getting out there and let's say they have success rotating running backs through, that they don't just start doing that to kind of freshen up the legs of these guys, getting them ready for the playoffs. So that's one fear that I have, but I would say right now I would fire up Miles Sanders, DJ Moore, Montgomery, Dotson in that order.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for the question, CD Smitty. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to like the video, consider subscribing to the page. Make sure that bell notification or that bell icon is turned on so you get notified when Cheesy Corn Sports goes live and drops all of our other content as well. All right. Moving on. We have the abysmal Denver Broncos to the, in your eyes, completely overrated Kansas City Chiefs. Let's do a quick little rundown here. Russell Wilson, garbage. Latavius Murray, garbage. Chase Edmonds, garbage. Jerry Jeudy has come alive the past couple of weeks. Ever since coming back from injury, he has put up double digits in every single game. He's had target shares of 9, 8, and 10 over the last 3 weeks, 70 yards or more in each of those weeks as well. I think Jerry Jeudy is perfectly fine. It does say he is officially active for his ankle as well. The Chiefs secondary is definitely beatable as well. So I think you can fire up Jerry Jeudy. Courtland Sutton is a little bit more concerning. He last week was his first week back against the Rams. He did put up 5 catches for 64 yards, but Jerry Jeudy has definitely taken over as the wide receiver one of that offense. He's the main focal point as well. And so I'm starting Jeudy over Sutton. I wouldn't be afraid of Sutton as a flex option, but that's just me. That's really it on the Denver side of the game here. And then on the Chiefs, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry here. You're starting Mahomes. You're starting Juju Smith-Schuster. At least I am. The snap shares there, he is a little boomer busty, but he is right around that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 territory. So I, going that way as well. Travis Kelce, no brainer. Jerick McKinnon, he's scored a touchdown in 4 straight weeks, looking to keep that alive against a Denver defense. This is the same team that Jerick McKinnon started his, Jerick McKinnon was a RB1 last time he played the Denver Broncos, and that was at Denver, where he had 7 receptions for 112 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, which out of the backfield is just insane. So
Yep.
I think you're starting Jerick McKinnon over the likes of, say, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, some of those borderline dependent matchup or matchup dependent kind of guys.
Yep.
I would be starting McKinnon over them. Also, probably wouldn't shy away from Isaiah Pacheco this week.
Yeah.
He consistently is getting roughly, give or take, 15 carries a game. He is getting at least 1 to 2 targets a game as well. So it just depends on if he can haul in that target and actually turn it into something for a couple extra points as well. Again, this is, I said this exact thing about Pacheco the last time they played the Denver Broncos. I expect the Chiefs to be up in this game, so I expect them to run the ball.
That hasn't came to fruition a whole lot.
Has not came to fruition a whole lot. So, which is why I am feeling confident in starting McKinnon regardless. But I mean, hey, we are men of logic, right? So, you got to look. We look at everything on paper, right? 12-3 Kansas City versus 4-11 Denver. Denver can't get anything going on offense. Even their defense has started to struggle lately, just because the offense isn't doing them any favors on the other side of the ball, putting the defense in bad situations and forcing them to really overextend themselves. So,
yep,
I think McKinnon and Pacheco are both good to play this week. Probably starting McKinnon over Pacheco, but as far as volume dictates, I would not be afraid of Pacheco either. What are your thoughts before we move on?
One thing here, I did want to run through some overnight fantasy notes and recent fantasy notes that may change my opinion on some people. So overnight, Jalen Hurts will not play. I don't know if anybody saw that, but Jalen Hurts will not play.
Yep, Gardner Minshew.
Yep. So just in case anybody didn't see that, that was kind of a yesterday late evening type of thing.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett is expected to play.
Good for him.
10 screws on a plate in his left hand. Marshawn Lattimore is expected to play. Chris Olave is expected to play. So it's a good defensive piece. And then Olave, if you have him in your league. Christian Watson, game time decision, the hip injury. And then we already talked about Claypool was questionable. Now the big one here is, where is it at? Okay, well, so for one, DeAndre Hopkins, of course, inactive, but so are both starting quarterbacks, Marco Wilson and Antonio Hamilton, are both out. So Drake London, start Drake London.
Oh, corner. I thought you said quarterback.
No, cornerbacks.
I was like, those aren't quarterbacks. What are you talking
They're
about?
down both starting cornerbacks. Start Drake London.
Start
Drake London. 100% without a question.
Yeah.
And $6 who are listed as questionable are all active. So Jamel Dean, Mike Edwards, DBs, Julio Jones, wide receiver, Donovan Smith, tackle, Vita Vea, D-line, Antoine Winfield, safety. They're all active. They were all listed as questionable. Chris Olave's active. Yep. Jerry Jeudy's active. Trevor Lawrence, Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, Olave, Julio Jones. They're all officially active. Inactive, Jalen Hurts, Carlton Davis, Xavier Howard, Terron Armstead, Bradley Chubb. And I think that's about the biggest news. That was the biggest one, was the Cardinals DBs being out, because then that kind of moves Drake London up my weekly board pretty significantly. So I would put Drake London kind of up in the territory of your Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith type of region.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin, even.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And a couple other names that you mentioned there that are inactive is Bradley Chubb and Xavier Howard. Which brings us into our next game here, and I'll let you kind of run through this one. The 8-7 Miami Dolphins versus the 7-8 New England Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa is not in. Leading the way for the Dolphins today is Teddy Bridgewater. With those, the only note that I'm going to say before I'll let you take this off here is with Bradley Chubb out, as well as Xavier Howard, those are two big defensive pieces that the Dolphins are going to be missing. And I could definitely see Ramondre Stevenson take off this week. So I'll let you go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, for the Dolphins this week, it's tough life for Reek and Waddle owners, just because right now you're unsure of what exactly this is going to look like. I do think you're firing up. Well, of course, out of the receivers, you're firing both receivers up, regardless. But then becomes a question about Dolphins running backs. It's hard to just know what shape this offense is going to take. That's the tough part. I do like Jalen Waddle more than Tyreek. I could be partial to Jalen Waddle because I'm a Jalen Waddle owner anywhere I can get him, because I love Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
But that's the only issue right now is that's scaring probably people in their fantasy championship is we just don't know. And New England's a pretty tough defense. They're well coached. They scheme well. And listen, Belichick against these young starting QBs, it's tough, man. He's gonna put some pressure on. He's gonna try to move things around on the defensive side of the ball to really confuse them on offense. And it's just up to he just got to get the ball to the playmakers. That's the biggest thing right here. Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson didn't have a good game last week, but you gotta understand that you don't just quit on Ramondre Stevenson because of one bad game. I think Ramondre Stevenson does a rebound this week. I think he has a good game. On the Patriots side of the ball, outside of that, they're down a receiver, right? Is the Devontae
Parker is not
Parker, right? Yeah, I don't like anybody on the Patriots side of the ball outside of Ramondre Stevenson. But yeah, I think this is an interesting game. I do think the Dolphins do have some offensive success, though. Call me crazy, but I think they win this game, and I think they have some offensive success. I think they're able to get Jalen Waddle. I think they're able to scheme up and get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek the ball in space. I think they're able to let them do. It's just what they need to do is they should get the ball out of the hands quick, get it to Jalen Waddle, get it to Tyreek, let them operate in space, mix in the run game, try to do a 50-50 split, run pass, and just keep it moving. They got to just keep that tempo, keep the ball moving, and get it to their playmakers in space. I think they'll do that. I think Jalen Waddle is going to have a good game. I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a good game. I still think Jalen Waddle is a top 10 receiver for me. Like I said, I do think he has a better game than Tyreek, but I am partial to Jalen Waddle. But I do think top 15, top 10 for both guys.
All right. Yep. Moving on here now to the 4-10-1 Indianapolis Colts going in against the 8-6-1 Giants. This is kind of the Giants are the harder path to take for Green Bay to make the playoffs. If the Giants lose these last two games here, if they lose one more. No, if they lose two more. Yeah, if they lose two more games, if the Giants lose out and Green Bay wins out, then Green Bay makes the playoffs. Or if Green Bay wins out and the Commanders lose one of their final two games, Green Bay makes the playoffs. which is probably the easier road here, given that the Commanders still have to play Dallas next week, not this week. So here's hoping that Dallas doesn't sit all their starters and the Commanders go in and win that game.
Yeah.
But okay, Colts, Giants. Daniel Jones has been one of the probably more untalked or not talked about consistent fantasy quarterbacks this year. He is the QB 10 on the year. And that is in large part to his rushing that has just taken off this year. Career highs in rush attempts, rush yards, as well as rushing touchdowns. Meanwhile, still only had, or if it were to end right now, he would have a career low in fumbles. So definite good progression as far as Daniel Jones goes. This is also the second most. All right. Here's a stat for you that is not really going to help my case here. Daniel Jones has 13 passing touchdowns on the season. That is the second most passing touchdowns Daniel Jones has thrown in his career.
Aren't you a Danny Dimes guy? What the hell
I
happened,
am,
man?
because here comes my next point. He also has a career low in interceptions. He is also sitting at a career high in yards, career high in completions. This is by far the best fantasy finish he will have in his entire career so far. Yeah, he only has 5 picks on the year, and in a season where you have a lot of these top guys that are just throwing interception after interception, taking care of the ball has been huge for Daniel Jones.
Trash.
I'm not saying he's the top quarterback in the league, but as far as consistency goes from Daniel Jones, you can absolutely expect it.
It's disgusting.
He's doing decent stuff this year, right around the 16 to 20 fantasy points a game range. Let's see. He's had some ceiling games like against Detroit where he went for 26. But the majority of them have been 20, 19, 16, 18, right around in there. So against the Colts, I don't think you should have any issue starting Daniel Jones if your quarterback situation dictates as such. Obviously, there are a good number of quarterbacks I would start above Daniel Jones, but still, Saquon Barkley, home run, start him. Don't even think about it. Darius Slayton has been putting in a couple good performances the last couple weeks. Last week, 4 catches for 79 yards, finished with 11.9 fantasy points. So, and this is without that, and that's without touchdowns too. He hasn't scored since week 10 against Houston. He only has 2 touchdown catches on the season, but he is trending in a upward fashion. A little bit risky though, for my taste. But if you need to, by all means. That's really it on the Giants side for me. The Colts side honestly doesn't get a lot better. The only name really worth mentioning right here is probably Michael Pittman. But even then, you'd be starting him more for the name value than anything. Nick Foles started last week. He's going to start again this week. Last week with Nick Foles, he had 4 catches for 39 yards. Yikes. I'm probably looking to find an alternative option for Michael Pittman. It's not a knock against his talent. It's a knock against the lack of talent surrounding him, to include the coaching. So that's my take on Colts Giants. I do expect Giants to win this game pretty handedly, with a large rushing workload for Saquon Barkley. Any thoughts before we move
on? So for me in this game, I see Saquon Barkley as a must start.
Yeah.
As much as I say Daniel Jones is trash, because he is, I do concur that the Giants have been getting their passing game rolling and Daniel Jones has been spreading the ball out really well. Actually, out of the 3 receivers, I like Hodgins the most, believe it or not. So I do like Hodgins the most. I do like Saquon this week. I'm surprised this line's as low as it is. I just don't think the Colts are. I hope they win. Again, that would be another good thing because I don't know. I mean, I think we'd have to win both of our last games for them to pass us in the draft order, but I don't want to risk it.
Mhm.
But Barkley, yeah. Barkley, hopefully they turn Saquon loose and Saquon does his thing. On the Colts side of the ball, like you said, Pittman and maybe Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods is about. Jelani Woods is like I'm desperate for tight ends, that type of deal.
Mhm.
Then I'm firing up Jelani Woods, but Pittman, I think you got to feel comfortable. Well, you don't have to feel comfortable with him, but I think with Pittman, you know what you have. I would also but Nick Foles looked terrible last week. Their O-line looks terrible. It's Nick Foles. He had no touch on his passes, it seemed like last week. I don't know if that was a matter of him just not getting enough time or what it was, but he just didn't look sharp. But yeah, I'm going Pittman. I'm going Isaiah Hodgins. If I had to choose any of the Giants receivers outside of that, I'm probably staying away from everybody. Well, Saquon, of course, I must start.
Mhm.
Daniel Jones, you're starting. But I'm staying away from everybody else not named Jelani Woods. And I'm starting Jelani Woods in a dire situation.
Okay. All right. Moving on now to the New Orleans Saints versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Go ahead and take us through this one here.
Yeah, so this one becomes an interesting one now that you don't have Jalen Hurts in there. Gardner Minshew was solid, right? But of course, he's no Jalen Hurts.
Sure.
They're probably going to be passing the ball a little bit more than they would if Hurts was in there. But I think the Eagles will have a good game. I think Devontae Smith, I'm not super high on him this week, but again, I'll put him in the Godwin-ish territory as far as wide receiver rankings go. AJ Brown, you're starting. Miles Sanders, probably starting, hopefully. But again, the only hesitation is what I talked about earlier with we don't know what kind of leash these guys have. What kind of lead would the Eagles have to get for them to start pulling starters, you know? That's the only issue that's coming up in this week 17 stuff with teams like the Eagles who have, essentially locked it up, but they just want to make sure that they win that one last game and clinch, best record, whole nine there. So I like Devontae. You're starting Devontae. You're starting AJ Brown. And then on the Saints side of the ball, fire up Taysom Hill at tight end. Do it. He's been getting more and more work, more and more volume. I like Taysom Hill as a top 10 tight end this week. So depending on who you got, unless you just prefer the floor of a guy like an Evan Ingram or honestly though, at tight end, there's not much of a floor this year. I feel like everybody is volatile enough outside of Kelsey is volatile enough to be give you 3-4 points. Oh, but you also got to understand too with you got to put not just Kelsey right now with Purdy starting at quarterback, George Kittle, he has been lighting it up since Purdy's been at quarterback. But so outside of those two, and again, I like Evan Ingram this week. So outside of those three, you got Njoku, who's even supposed to be one of your big floor tight end guys who Cleveland has no passing game. So Njoku can't even get the ball. Njoku can't even get targets. He's getting 4 points out here. I like Taysom Hill. if you're in a position where you want that upside, fire Taysom Hill up again. They're getting more and more involved as the weeks go on. Last week, I actually kind of nailed it on the head. I said he was going to get 9 to 10 carries and you got to hope one of those is a touchdown. He got 9 carries and one of them was a touchdown. So, Olave, I don't like Olave this week. I like Olave as more of a back end wide receiver 2 flex guy. So, but that's just kind of my in this game. It's hard to judge the Eagles right now and read the Eagles and how they're going to handle this. I would venture to say that they are probably going to let their starters play this game out, which is why I'm a little bit more leaning on the side of Miles Sanders. I think they're going to let their guys play this game out, and I think they're going to rest who they need to next week outside of Hurts because, of course, he's getting rested this week. I think they might throw him in maybe for the first half next week, but you got to rock. You got to rock with them and just hope that they're going to be out there.
Yeah. To me, any of the big names in this game you're starting, i.e. AJ Brown, I would be starting Devontae Smith. I'm probably a little bit higher on Devontae Smith this week than you are. Taysom Hill, I think, is a good tight end option, definitely. There are a few guys that I would probably start over him, but if you have one of those middling tight ends that you're really hoping for, a touchdown or something, I'd probably just put Taysom Hill.
Yeah, you're starting like Dawson Knox, probably.
Yeah, Dawson Knox. Gerald
Cowboys.
Everett is another one.
Cowboys. Yeah, Cowboys tight end. I'm drawing a blank.
Cowboys tight end. Dalton
Schultz.
They already played though. Didn't they play on Thursday?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz actually turned in a great game. 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's kind of like my cutoff in a normal week would be a Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz type of range with the Taysom as far as the floor goes.
But if you have TJ Hawkinson, if you have, I'm starting Evan Ingram over Taysom Hill. I think
just because the Texans are such a good matchup.
Yeah, and Evan Ingram has been on such a great tear.
Yep.
Doug Peterson has really started to scheme more towards Evan Ingram. It reminds me a lot of when Zach Ertz was, in that top 3 consideration for tight end back in like 2017, 2018 as well. It reminds me a lot of that. A lot of just get the ball into Evan Ingram's hands and let his athleticism go and take over from there, which
Correct.
Evan Ingram is by far one of the more athletic tight ends in the league.
We do have a question too.
Yes.
Caden Colts fan.
Caden the Colts fan. Rest in peace. Danny Dimes or Minshew and Hodgins or Dortch. Lost Tua, Henry, D-Hop, and in a deep league. Well,
I like Danny Dimes and Hodgins.
My condolences. So
I was higher in Hodgins than you were.
I like Danny Dimes over Minshew.
And I like the stack too.
The stack is intriguing, but in my experience, it can also come back and bite you in the ass.
I like stacks though.
I talked about
Dortch. If I didn't have a broken hand, I'd do the stacks. But my fingers still don't work. So I can't do the stacks.
For a consensus opinion, I'm going to roll Hodgins as well. I do like Dortch though this week for all those reasons that we talked about earlier. Arizona they can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. So what does that mean? Slants, bubble screens, end arounds, all that screams Greg Dortch.
So we can give a consensus on Danny Dimes, and then I'm big on Hodgins. Like I said, I like him over the other Giants receivers, and you like Dortch.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Danny Dimes definitely. I went on a whole rant, and now I've staked my entire reputation on the consistency of Daniel Jones. So don't fuck this up. But yeah, I would.
The sad part is, aren't they playing against the Colts?
What's that?
Aren't they playing against the Colts?
They are.
Sorry, kid.
It's been a rough year, Caden.
Hey, I'm a Texans fan. Tell me about it.
It's been a rough couple of years for Justin.
It's been a rough since 2002, basically.
Yeah.
The whole damn time we've been existing.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for the question, Caden. Happy New Year.
Appreciate the question, brother.
All right. I think that was really it as far as this game goes. So we can move on here. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and who are now miraculously sitting at 6-9, and they are facing the 7-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, Tom Brady, like if you start him, he's going to throw the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. He's going to get a decent amount of yards, around 280, 300 plus. He's going to get that for you. As far as the touchdowns go, I don't know if we can promise any more than one touchdown. He's been just peppered, 21 touchdowns, which is half of what he did last year and the year prior. He hasn't thrown this few touchdowns since the 2019 New England season. Yeah.
JC Horn's out. So
JC Horn is out. The only cause for concern with me with Tom Brady is he has 9 picks on the year, right? 7 of those 9 picks have come in the last 4 weeks. He just seems to have lost his way. He struggled against Carolina earlier in the season, where he had 290 yards through the air, no touchdowns, no picks, 11 fantasy points. I do think a lot of it is he just doesn't have a whole lot of time. Right. I do think he is a solid option. Chris Godwin should be feeding a lot in that shorter passing game today. So, I mean, if Tom Brady's your starting quarterback, there are far worse options that you could go. I think you're starting Leonard Fournette. I think you're starting Rachaad White. Those two have become kind of a pretty decent tandem. Fournette got 20 carries last week, along with 9 catches. Shout out to Lenny Fournette for actually starting to catch the ball. He's actually had a decent amount of receiving work this year. And then you got Rachaad White as well, who he's been catching a few touchdowns here and there. He got about a touchdown last week. He came out and killed it the first 3 carries, and then didn't see the field until it felt like the second half. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, maybe it's always a rookie. I don't know. I don't know a lot of what Todd Bowles thinks of. I watch their games and I'm like, with the amount of talent on this team, there's zero way that this team should be doing this. We talked about it last week. But still, you got to stick to your guns. If you're in the fantasy championship with these Buccaneers, you ride with them, right? Tom Brady, Fournette, White, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. That's basically the end of that list. Yep. Going to the Carolina side, Deontay Foreman, boomer bust, big time, right? Got you 22 points last week. The week prior, he had minus 0.1. And that was with double-digit carries. Yeah. So, Chuba Hubbard, welcome back to relevance last week. 12 carries, 125 on the ground. That's not really a sustainable yards per carry average. 0 receiving work last week as well. No touchdown. He kind of gave you the Dameon Pierce experience where he had 125 on the ground, only got you 12.5 fantasy points. DJ Moore, we talked about earlier. He's probably the only relevant receiver on this Carolina side. So it's funny that since Sam Darnold came back, right, the targets have remained relatively consistent. However, he started catching the ball more. Going from 2-3 catches a game to consistently catching about 5 of those targets, which, of course, brings up the yards, brings up the touchdowns. Not all targets are created equal. Yeah. DJ Moore has scored a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. Now he goes up against Tampa Bay in a must-win game for the Carolina Panthers, who still control their own destiny in that NFC South. Crazy, sitting at 6-9. But, hey, here we are. That's really it as far as the game goes. I wouldn't really trust Sam Darnold. What are your thoughts?
I don't think the Panthers win this game.
Okay.
I actually like the value. Is the spread still -3?
Maybe. Let me look. Come on. Where are we at? Where's the fucking game?
I think it's -3 or 3.5. But I actually like the Bucks in this game. I think this is the best chance that Brady has to show Brady of old.
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying that for a while. I haven't been saying it's the best chance, but I've been saying, like, I feel like at some point we're going to see it. Now, I'm losing confidence in that. But I do think if there's going to be a game where he does it, this is going to be the one. I do like Deontay Foreman. I do like DJ Moore. I like Mike Evans, and I'm very hesitant on Brady again to start him, just from what we've seen. I'm not going to my championship week hoping that Brady has his week. If you got a better option, you're playing him. But if you need to ride with Brady, I do think there's a potential this game's the game. Mm-hmm. I like Evans. Evans is getting the most of the routes run for that team. Chris Godwin's, of course, right close behind, but you're getting almost like 89% routes run by Mike Evans and 86 for Godwin. End zone targets have been very similar, which Godwin in the beginning of the season wasn't getting anything. And then also the deep ball targets have been similar. They're basically getting almost a 50-50 share. But right now, if it's a toss-up between the two, I'm going Mike Evans. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, it's really like, dude, it's tough. It's so tough to gauge this Tampa offense because, like I said, it's an O-line, a lot of an O-line thing here, and you just never know if he's actually going to get the time. That's the only thing that scares me. Because I don't think it's that Brady's lost it. Brady didn't just lose his ability. Mm-hmm. He may have fell off a little bit. He may not have the quickness and recognition of certain blitzes and stuff like that he had before. But I just think he's happy feet back there right now. Just expecting pressure every single play. But again, I like Deontay Foreman. I do like DJ Moore. I don't like Chuba Hubbard. I like Evans over Godwin, but again, those two, you're starting either one of them as a top 20 receiver. And I like the Bucks to pull this one out. I think the Bucks do pull the up. Well, they favored it, right?
Yes, the line is
3.5. I like the value on the -3 because I think that should have been more so in the -6 range. So I think you bet if it's still at -3 or 3.5, I still think you bet that. If it's been bet over to, I doubt it's been bet all the way up to 6. I think that's a good bet too. I like that. This is probably my favorite bet of the day.
Okay. Okay. Moving on, we're gonna go into the last morning game here. We have the Cleveland Browns going up against the Washington Commanders. For me, this is probably the least amount of startable people in the entire league.
I kind of wish this game didn't exist.
No shit. Go ahead and take us through it.
Do I have to?
Yeah. I mean, I can rattle off about 5 names that you're starting, and we can move on.
Totally well, so in this one, the Commanders actually had some inactives defensively. Benjamin St-Juste.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. Cam Curl's out, the safety. The Their guard, Chris Paul, CP3, is out.
Little
Defensive end, James Smith
commander.
Williams is out. Sam Howell's inactive, just in
Good for
case you
him.
were wondering. Noteworthy. Yeah, so we'll run through this one real quick. I don't like anybody that DeAndre Hopkins throws the ball to. I don't like DeAndre Hopkins. I don't like this offense. You start
Deshaun
Nick
Watson.
Chubb. Huh?
Deshaun Watson. You were saying
What'd I say?
DeAndre Hopkins.
I mean, Deshaun Watson. Oh, fuck. I'm just like rattling off
Like, I
old
wouldn't
Texans.
like anyone that Hopkins is throwing the ball to either.
Yeah, well, I actually like DeAndre Hopkins throwing the ball more than I like Deshaun Watson right now.
Fair.
No, Deshaun Watson still hasn't shown anything. Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson has not been good. He's made Njoku's floor more of a floor, which I hate. Yeah, I don't trust any fantasy relevancy from him, and especially against a fairly tough, even though they got some inactives, a fairly tough Commanders defense. Well, we didn't see too tough of a defense, recently from the Commanders, but I do. You start Nick Chubb, and then on the Commander side of the ball, you start in Scary Terry. And shit. Is that it?
I'm starting Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson,
Antonio
because Gibson's
is
out. Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's about it. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot here.
Also, temper your expectations for Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is back in at quarterback, and
Yep.
Terry McLaurin saw a significant increase when Carson Wentz was benched,
Yep.
and Taylor Heineke stepped in. Now Carson
He'll get
Wentz
you
is
10 or
back in.
13.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think Terry McLaurin will still get you some points.
But like you said, temper the upside.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, man, Terry McLaurin only has 4 touchdowns on the year.
I'm not a big Terry McLaurin fan as it is,
Yeah.
but he'll get you 10 or 13. If you got more than that,
Yeah. But
I'll send him your
other than
bench.
that, Nick Chubb.
Yep.
I think you have to start Amari Cooper based off the name value.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
But I mean, his production has significantly dropped since Deshaun Watson has taken over at quarterback as well.
you're not comfortable with it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Donovan Peoples-Jones has actually shown relatively good chemistry with Watson. It has been kind of hit or miss though. Like last week, he only had 1 catch off 5 targets, but the week prior, 4 catches, 31 yards, a touchdown. So real touchdown dependent there. But against Cincinnati, 12 targets, 8 catches, 114 yards. So is what it is. But he has been returning kicks this year too. I don't really know what that effect has on the team here. Normally, I thought if you're returning kicks, you're not really involved in the offense. But
That's been changing lately.
Yeah, I guess it has.
Kansas City's got Pacheco kicks.
That's true. But yeah, okay. So that's basically about it then. Fuck, man. For Green Bay's sake, give me Cleveland. I'm just saying, if the Commanders can lose right now, and then Green Bay can win today, and then go in, all they have to do is beat Detroit next week, and they're in the playoffs.
Well, the Texans have Cleveland's pick, so lose.
Yeah.
It's all about draft positioning right now, right?
All right, moving on here. Let's get into the 4 afternoon games here. We have about 20-ish minutes till kickoff, so we're going to kind of rapid fire through these as well. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey going in against the Jarrett Stidham-led Las Vegas Raiders. Would you start Brock Purdy? Would you consider starting Brock Purdy?
He's a good streamer. He's a good streamer this week.
Yeah, exactly my sentiment. Only 19% rostered.
Yeah.
So maybe worth a little thing.
If you
Ever
got like
since
a
he came into
Jalen
starting role,
Hurts,
he has yet to go below 15 fantasy points. So
yeah, if you got
pretty
like Jalen
consistent.
Hurts as your normal starter and you need
Yeah.
a quarterback, I like Brock Purdy as a streamer.
Yep.
I think he's a solid option this week. He's been playing well. His floor has been high because he's not making a whole lot of mistakes.
Yep.
And just the way that offense rolls, he's not going to be put in a lot of positions to really have any games that could be completely disastrous.
Yep. Yep. All right. Christian McCaffrey, no brainer. You're probably starting Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel is out. So Brandon Ayuk, I don't know. He didn't have chemistry early on with Purdy, but he did have 7 targets last week, 5 of them for 81.
Yeah.
So against the Raiders, I think you could start Ayuk with some confidence there.
Agreed.
The real confidence, though, is in George Kittle. Obviously, he's put up point totals of 25 and 30 over the last 2 weeks. You got to roll with the hot hand there. Going over to the Raiders side, you're not starting Stidham. You're starting Josh Jacobs just because Josh Jacobs has done everything he can this year. He will need a good amount of volume in order to produce this week. And he's going to have to do something with it. But, I mean, I feel for the likes of Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams on this team. That is a lot of talent that is just being wasted, and you can tell how frustrated they are. If you look at any one of their post-game press conferences, interviews, whatever, they are just tired of losing when they are doing nothing but performing. So speaking of which, you're also starting Devontae Adams, but don't expect a top wide receiver 1 performance out of him. Why? Because you have Jarrett Stidham throwing him the ball. Devontae Adams does have 9 targets in each of his last 2 games, but he's only catching 2, 3, 4 balls a game. He has catches of 3, 4, and 2 over these last 3 games, and that's against the Rams defense, the Pittsburgh defense, and the Patriots defense.
Yikes.
So I don't know. Maybe if they can get some screens going his way, little quick outs, stuff like that. But yeah. With the quarterback change, I'm not starting Mac Hollins. I'm not starting Hunter Renfrow.
No.
If you absolutely have to, no, forget that. You're benching Darren. I'm benching Darren Waller, and I'm starting the likes of Taysom Hill over Darren Waller.
Yeah, I'm right there. Yeah.
And that's really all the fantasy relevancy out of this game. Do you have any comments to make on that?
No, there's not really much to add to that. It kind of is what it is. You got Jacobs, you got Devontae. You're firing those guys up. Start your studs. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot of upside to be had here.
Correct.
It's a lot of your studs going to go out there and just do what they do without their, like you said, one upside. Yeah, not a good matchup, or not a good game to have fantasy stars in this situation.
Okay. Moving on to the Jets and Seahawks, both teams 7-8, both teams fighting for that playoff spot if they can.
Yep.
The return of Mike White bodes really well for the New York Jets for me. I think I like the Jets in this game. Garrett Wilson, I think, is a huge potential candidate for a big game today. Tyler Conklin, I think, is back in contention for a good top tight end this week. He's got a great matchup up against the Seahawks. The NFC West outside of the 49ers is just like a tight end's feast.
Yeah.
At the very least of a floor, it's a low tight end 1. Or at least a high tight end 2.
Yep.
But Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, I'm going to come back to your opinion on the Jets running backs on how to situate that. But going over to Seattle here, you're starting Kenneth Walker. If you're in the championship and you've had Geno Smith at quarterback, you just keep rolling with him, right?
Yeah.
Geno Smith has exceeded all sorts of expectations this year. Everyone, the Seattle Seahawks were my pick to be the number 1 overall pick going into the draft next year, and here they are sitting at 7
How
and 8.
dare you?
That is something I was completely wrong about. Maybe it's because I work with a bunch of fucking Seahawks fans and I wanted to see them cry. But it is what it is. Geno Smith has not gone a game without a touchdown since week 2. And that's the only game this year where he hasn't. No, I'm sorry. Week 6 against the Cardinals as well. But here he is against the Jets. He's QB7 on the year. Just insane production out of a quarterback that we just did not see happen this year. I put Geno Smith right in there with Mike White, where a good streaming option this week. If you've been starting him, keep rolling with him. Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett's back in the lineup with Marquise Goodwin on IR. I think you can start Tyler Lockett back in there. Tyler Lockett, what a fucking tough son of a bitch. This dude, after just missing one game with a broken left index finger, which he had surgery on.
Yeah.
Had surgery on his finger.
They say put like plates in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and on Friday, he was a full practice participant. This is not like a game time decision, right?
Nope.
Full practice participant. Marquise Goodwin is out. I would be okay with starting Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf, obviously, before Lockett, but I'm okay with Lockett. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So the biggest beneficiaries of Mike White starting this game, Garrett Wilson and Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight.
Yeah.
There's a stat breakdown here that I found yesterday. So here's Zonovan Knight with Zach Wilson versus Zonovan Knight with Mike White. Zonovan Knight with Zach Wilson.
Okay, here we go.
18 yards per game.
Yeah.
Zonovan Knight White, 99.3.
Yikes.
With Zach Wilson, 10 touches per game. With Mike White, 19 touches per game.
Mm-hmm.
With Zach Wilson, 1.8 yards per touch. With Mike White, 5.3 targets per game. With 0.5 targets per game. With Mike White, 3.3. What am I doing with the Jets running backs? I am firing up Zonovan Knight because the only way Zonovan Knight doesn't perform is if Mike White gets hurt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson, I thought he would be able to. I was still high on him. I thought he was QB proof. Thought he was matchup proof. He's not. I guess nobody can withstand the fantasy black hole that is Zach Wilson. Oh, yeah. I do believe Garrett Wilson's going to have a great week. I believe Zonovan Knight, Garrett Wilson, you're firing both of those guys up with confidence. I like it. I like it a lot for both those guys. Outside of that, you're streaming Mike White if you have to. On the Seahawks side of the ball, Kenneth Walker, not Kenneth White. God, I got too many Knights and Whites. And Kenneth Walker, I was high on him last week. Wasn't due to lack of touches. The Seahawks couldn't get him the ball on the goal line. The man had, 25 carries? Something like that?
Yeah.
All he was missing was a touchdown. I like Kenneth Walker. I like DK Metcalf. I am hesitant on Lockett just because of that hand. I don't know what's the threshold for that hand getting hurt to the point where he can't come back in or they're not risking it. Geno, you got to roll with Geno, like you said. Noah Fant. Are you starting Noah Fant?
No.
No. You're not starting Noah Fant. That's the answer.
No. He's below my threshold. I keep asking myself, when it comes down to it, am I starting Taysom Hill over this player? I'm starting Taysom Hill over Noah Fant.
Yeah. And what's been going on for Zonovan Knight, right? Is it's the Jets, the team the Jets have been playing, they've been daring of the ball.
Yeah.
In turn, Zonovan Knight has been getting shut down because the Jets haven't been able to throw the ball. So why stop keying in on Zonovan Knight?
Mm-hmm.
I think Zonovan Knight's floor is high. I think Garrett Wilson's floor is high. I think their ceilings are even higher. I cannot say this enough. I think you should start Zonovan Knight if you have him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the biggest things I wanted to say on that one was I could not believe the disparity in those. Like I understood he was underperforming with Zach Wilson in there, but that is insane. Those numbers are insane.
Yeah.
The fact that one quarterback makes that big of a difference and a running back, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. All right. We have 4 games left. 2 of them have a lot of fantasy relevance. 2 of them not so much. Let's get through the 2 not so much right now. We got 10 minutes. Ready?
Yep.
Rams, Chargers. I'm just going to rapid fire some names off you. Tell me if you're starting them or not. Obviously, Herbert and Eckler. Yes, right?
Start.
Keenan Allen.
Start.
Mike
with confidence.
Williams.
Start.
Gerald Everett.
No.
Okay. Josh Palmer.
No.
DeAndre Carter.
No.
Cam Akers.
Yes.
Van Jefferson.
No.
Tyler Higbee.
Is he going to play?
Expected to play. Yes.
Okay. Yes. And you're flexing Van Jefferson potentially.
Okay. Was there anyone else that we missed?
Ben Skoranek, no.
I don't think Ben Skoronek's playing, actually.
Oh, he's not? Okay. Then definitely no.
Fire him up.
But yeah, Van Jefferson, I think you can flex him.
Okay, perfect. We're going to do the same thing for Sunday night, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Ready? Tyler Huntley at quarterback. J.K. Dobbins.
Start. He's got a really fast right leg.
Okay.
Did you see that quote I put up on that I saw shit on Twitter?
The Olympic right
Dude,
leg.
Somebody on my timeline shared that on Twitter. I was like, hold on, this is a like I thought it was like a parody account or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this so funny? He's like, yeah, my right leg's really fast, but my left leg is just not there yet.
All right.
Well, it's funny because it's funny because watch him run like that one time. I think it was his first game back.
Yeah.
Remember he was running down the sideline. He had a touchdown and he pulled up lame on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at that now, that kind of makes sense. I'm like, well, maybe he's onto something here.
All right. Mark Andrews.
Yes.
Any Baltimore receiver. And I can go through the names if you want. No? Okay, perfect. Moving on to Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett.
Sit.
Najee Harris.
Start.
Jalen Warren.
Sit.
Deontay Johnson.
Flex.
George Pickens.
Wide receiver 2 flex.
The Muth.
Start.
Okay. All right. And let's go to Monday Night Football. If you can tell, I'm saving a certain game.
Oh, yeah.
For last year.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We got 7 minutes. All right. We just did 2 games in 3 minutes. Loved it.
Yep.
We need to start doing that for more of the non-relevant games.
Right? Cleveland game should have been two start sits. Nope.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the Bills and Bengals. This game should be insane. The hype for it is real. You got Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. You're starting both. Singletary and Mixon, I'm probably starting both. Just because of what they mean to the team. Which, by the way, I'm taking my little victory lap on Devin Singletary last week.
And I'm taking mine on Cook.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Are you starting James Cook this week?
Yes.
Okay. Receivers, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Gabe Davis, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Isaiah McKenzie. Which one's you starting? Which one's you sitting?
Okay, run through this again. Sorry.
We'll go Bills first. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie.
I'm starting Diggs. I am flexing Gabe Davis.
And you're sitting McKenzie?
Yeah.
Okay. Bengals, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd.
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you start. Tyler Boyd, sit.
Okay. Tight ends, Dawson Knox and Hayden Hurst.
You're starting Knox. You're starting Hurst if you're in a little bit more of a dire situation.
Are you starting Taysom Hill over Hayden Hurst?
Yes.
Are you starting Taysom Hill over Dawson Knox?
No.
Okay. Like I said, that's my threshold.
Yep.
All right. Boom. Saved us time. I now have 5 minutes.
Let's go. Get after it. It's all you. Bring us home.
The Minnesota Vikings, the Vikings, as they're called so affectionately, travel to the frozen tundra, Lambeau Field, where there is some precipitation falling on the ground today, or at least forecasted to face off against the 7-8 Green Bay Packers, who are hanging by the seat of their fucking pants right now. They are barely alive. Don't ask me how. They were 4-8, and here they are at 7-8. You win out. Washington loses one of their last two, and they're in the playoffs. Minnesota already clinched the division, so I don't really know what they're going to be looking at. I would assume that it's still a rivalry game. They would love nothing more than to play spoiler for the Green Bay Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers has found his stride. I think he's a good streaming option this week. Aaron Jones, as long as, there's no lingering ankle injury that keeps him on the sideline for 90% of the game like last week, I think you're fine. I'm a little salty over that because Aaron Jones' lack of usage lost me my semifinal game in my redraft league, and now I'm in the third place game. So don't.
My redraft league?
Huh?
Just the one I hate. By the way, my standard redraft league, guess when the championship week is? Week 18.
That's disgusting.
This is the dumbest league I've ever been a part of.
That is disgusting.
I am embarrassed I even joined this league.
Oh, my. Standard, Yahoo, and Week 18 championship.
Oh, that's terrible.
I could get past Yahoo, right?
But it's everything else.
Fuck, man. AJ Dillon, I think you're also starting. AJ Dillon, we said it last week, is a cold weather running back.
Yep.
I think he has been stringing some touchdowns together as of late. He has 5 touchdowns on the ground in the past 4 games. I would be looking to, start him. Receivers, Christian Watson, game time decision. If Christian Watson is out, fire up Romeo Doubs.
See if there's any update on Watson.
Yeah, I think from what I saw last night, he's going to test it out during pregame, and they're going to make the decision then. I think you're flexing Allen Lazard. Lazard has good appeal. Had 11 targets last week. 5. He only caught 5 of them. He did drop a couple, which was a little upsetting. But when you're getting 11 targets, you got to follow the targets, right? Let's see. Romeo Doubs saw 5 targets in his first game back from injury against the Rams. Saw 6 targets last week. I think you can continue to see, 5, 6 targets if Watson plays. If he doesn't, I think you could see even more than that. So I think you could put him in there if need be. That's really it as far as I'm starting on the Green Bay side. Moving on to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins. If he's gotten you this way, I think he's going to continue to be a QB1. This is not a primetime game. Therefore, Kirk Cousins should be decent. Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has just destroyed Green Bay in previous games. Week 1 against him, he had 90 yards on the ground. shit, if you throw a hypothetical touchdown on that, you got yourself a 18, 19 point game from him, and that's perfect.
Can I throw 1 point out there if they're Christian Watson owners watching? If you have Christian Watson, and you're gonna wait, throw him in your flex spot.
Yep.
That way you have more options.
Great option.
If he indeed does not start, you have more options to replace him with.
Yeah. Okay. As far as the rest of the Vikings go, obviously you're starting Justin Jefferson, who absolutely torched Green Bay week 1. And I mean, he's the wide receiver 1 on the year for a reason. He has, I just looked at this. His last 3 games, I'm going to read you his targets.
Oh, God.
Against Detroit week 14, 15 targets, where he had 11 catches for 223 yards. Week 15 against the Colts, 16 targets, where he had 12 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown. And last week against the Giants, 16 targets, 12 catches, 133 yards, and a touchdown. He has not had single-digit targets since the Dallas game in week 11.
He makes Kirk Cousins.
Of course. Absolutely.
The Vikings are a 5-win team without Justin Jefferson.
Absolutely. Justin Jefferson is just unfucking real.
By the way, shut the Vikings up today. They're pretenders.
Please. I'm dying here. Adam Thielen, he's a risky flex option, in my opinion. Little touchdown
dependent
on it.
Honestly.
Yeah. KJ Osborne, I think you should probably shut down. You should probably sit him. He only had 3 catches last week. TJ Hawkinson, you're obviously starting. He's an elite tight end 1. And ever since going to Minnesota, I mean, he has seen the healthiest of upgrades in every asset, every facet of his game. And he's the tight end 2 right now. If TJ Hawkinson stayed the entire year with Minnesota, there's a real good chance we see him as the tight end 1 this year.
I agree.
All right. That's my piece. The games are starting. What do you got?
Christian Watson. If I'm a Christian Watson owner, I'm benching him. I'm not waiting. It's this close to the game. I don't think I think if he plays, he's going to be really cold out there. I just don't think it's a recipe for success waiting on Christian Watson. I'm not. Anyways, I still think he's a little bit too touchdown dependent. If you look at the breakdown of his numbers, I don't have time to go through the analytics right now. He is not a solid PPR guy unless he gets touchdowns, because his end zone target percentage is not going to be sustainable. And between the 20s, he doesn't get enough targets. Outside of that, no. AJ Dillon. I like AJ Dillon this week. If Watson doesn't go, you're firing up Romeo Doubs. I don't know if you said that.
Yep.
Okay. So I agree there. But outside of that, Vikings are scrubs. They're pretenders, and Justin Jefferson's the only thing they got, and they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. They're a 5-win team at best. They're trash.
All right. I love that that's the note that we're leaving off on. All right. So from all of us here at Cheesy Corn Sports, we'd like to thank you all for tuning in, dropping comments. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button before we head out today. Subscribe to the page. Make sure you hit that bell icon to get notified when we drop our next content. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope you all have a happy new year, and we will see you all in the victory circle. Peace out.
Thanks for checking out the Cheesy Corn Sports Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss an episode. For more information or to connect with Justin and Martin, check out Cheesy Corn Sports on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you next time on Cheesy Corn Sports.